Welcome today to Christians Uncut. I am Marcus D. King, your host. I am so glad that you're allowing me to come into your computer screen, your TV screen, wherever you are. We're just so delighted to have you a part of Christians Uncut. You know the theme of the show is strong enough for a Christian, but made for a sinner. We reach everyone because we want to make sure we have dialogue and discussion that will be good for your soul, that can energize you in every single way. We're so glad and so delighted to have you one more week with us this week. Make sure you tell someone to tune in right now by going to the internet at www.access34.tv, and you can watch that also digital, channel 34.1. We'd be glad to have you. Tell them, watch them. Watch Uncut. Uncut is on. It's time to watch and see what God has to say about your life and your situation. And since we're talking about life and situation, we've been having a wonderful discussion about men the last 2 weeks. We're going to have one more next week, but tonight we're picking up where we left off last week. And where was that? Last week we talked about what causes a man to walk away. And we had a wonderful discussion about walking away. Why do men walk away? And we spent a lot of time talking about why men leave. We talk about men in prison. We talk about men doing other things. But let's look at this. What about what causes a man to stay? Many times men don't get the applause that they need to get. We don't get it the way we need to do when we stay in situations. And so we want to talk about today, what causes a man to stay? And there are some things that make men leave situations. But then guess what? There are some things that cause a man to stay in his rightful position. And we want to discuss that today, and you know who we have with us today. We have a wonderful special guest with us, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to be a special guest with us as well. How can you do that? How can you do that? If you have a Facebook page, I have my phone with me today. I got my Facebook page open. You can go to Marcus King on Facebook, and you can actually email your thought, your question, and we'll get as many as we can today on the show so it can be interactive. You don't just have to just be a spectator. You can be a participator today. And so we want to make sure that if you go to Facebook, we got my man Deontay in here helping us out. Working on Facebook. So you can send your questions, your dialogue. We already have a few already. And our guest today in studio with us is none other than Pastor Perry Crenshaw. Perry in Crenshaw once again. We're going to have an exciting show today. Let's welcome Pastor Perry Crenshaw one more time. Good to have you, Pastor P.
Good to be here, man. Always.
Man, we're glad to have you back again today on Uncut.
Thanks for inviting me, man.
Man, glad to be back, man. We talked about last week what makes men walk away. And we dealt with that. And we had some great discussion on that topic. But even when it was over, after the show, several people were talking to me and throughout the week. Gotcha. And made me have a lead-in question today that I want to start off today's show with. And that question is this. We talked about men walking away. But the question is, when is it a good time for a man to walk away? Because sometimes, let's be real, you may need to walk away. Let's talk about in a situation where you're having an argument. Okay, is there? Are you in a? Let's just talk about that. What are some good reasons to walk away from a situation?
I think number one probably would be is safety.
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 All right.
When your own well-being is at jeopardy, or possibly you are on the verge of jeopardizing someone else's safety, then it's time to book.
Time to book.
It's time to get out of there.
Time to get out.
If you feel like something's going to happen to you or you're going to do something to someone, it's time to leave.
Now, that's kind of hard for men because we don't like leaving. We don't like retreating.
Right.
Because that's what, a lot of people get in trouble for because we don't know when to walk away. And I've explained before to our men before when we're talking about fighting, when it's talking about whether it's verbal fights, whether it's physical fights, it takes more energy for me not to hit you than it does to hit you. Okay. It's easy for me to hit you. It's easy for me to slap you. It's easy for me to say the crazy thing to you. Right. But it's harder for me. It takes more energy for me to restrain myself. Right. And that's what we have to look at. Sometimes I have to restrain my tongue. I have to restrain my arms, restrain whatever it is I was going to do in a negative sense and make sure it's a positive turn and walk away from certain situations. Not forever, sometimes. Sometimes it's good just to walk out of the room right now. Because now it might not be a good time for us to have a discussion.
And that's very good. I think that's where it starts. It starts with the verbal conversation.
That's right.
If you wait to get to the point where it's you're talking about physical, you almost or too late.
Yeah.
You know, but start trying to channel your conversations when you see them getting out of order.
Out of
you
order.
know, I've learned to say, you know what? It looks like this conversation is going nowhere fast.
Right. That's right.
I mean, it's going nowhere fast. So then, therefore, let me back off this conversation and stop it at that time. But the challenge you have is somebody always wants to have the last word.
Let's talk about this. You ever had that situation? You've been married 24 years. I mean, you know, you married to my real good friend.
Right.
I mean, you know, have you ever felt like sometimes, you know, I just need to walk away right now? When a situation like that,
Well, it took a lot of maturity for me to get to that point because I had to have the last word.
Okay.
Because I felt like having the last word meant I was running things. I was in control. I was calling the shots. I had the power. It's my house. It's my crib. You know, so then, therefore, you know, I do my thing. But it's really a different definition of what a man is.
Yeah.
You know, a man oftentimes, we take it from the example of Christ, where we talk about being meek, being humble, had all power, but was able to channel that power.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we as men have to get to the point where we have authority, we have a power, but we learn how to channel that power. So that doesn't mean I always have the last word, or I always have to make the call. Sometimes one of the most powerful things I do is to let the other person have the last word and keep me out of drama. And
you have to be wise. You know, that scripture says be wise as serpents, but harmless as a dove.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, you don't have to have the last word. Right. Sometimes silence is the last word. Right. Because what I mean by that is that's the last action. It is the most important thing. Because, you know, a fool is known in Proverbs by his many words.
Right.
Many activities. Sometimes you're showing how foolish you are, how unwise you are by trying to control situations. We know a lot of times when we win a situation.
Like you've been there, sir.
Yeah, we've been there. I've been there. I've been there because many times, let's be real. Men, we have egos.
Sure.
You know, Beyonce wrote the song, got a big ego.
Right.
Yeah, we sing about all that, but the truth is, we have domestic violence at an all-time high right now. We have people killing themselves. We got stress coming up on so many people. And of course, we talked about several times, men are performance oriented. And when I don't feel like I can perform well, we talked about that last week, I got to take that out on somebody. And if I'm not a mature man, I'm taking it out on my kids.
Right.
I'm taking it out on my wife.
Right.
I'm taking it out on those who love me. And so I can do some things. And man, it's just, hey, you have to really look at yourself. I don't care how much you pray.
Right. And one of the worst things you can, I'm sorry to interrupt,
go ahead.
but one of the worst things you can do is to take it out on yourself. And that is, you know, you start smoking blunts, start drinking.
But we ain't taking it out on ourselves. We don't see that. Okay. That's my escape.
Yeah.
But we're not looking at the long-term consequences.
That's it.
You got that? Go ahead.
That's it. You know, and before you know it, we're driving while under the influence, and we pull over by 5-0. You know, public intoxication.
That's right.
We end up with a habit that we can't afford. That's detrimental to our health. That's not even talking about the mental and the physical
emotional stuff. Yeah.
Fallout of the drinking and the drugging that comes with that. So
walking away is not always a bad thing.
No.
And now here's the thing. On the opposite side of that, though, sometimes we walk away too soon because we're not mature enough to have a conversation. There's a difference between arguments and discussion. And sometimes men, if we're not able to communicate effectively verbally with a woman, because, you know, a woman 9 times out of 10, she's going to be able to out-talk us and everything.
That's true.
And we have to be patient because they're expressed differently than we do. Right. They're different, so we have to be patient in our conversation. But sometimes, just be honest, sometimes I don't really want to hear all that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I can't win, I'll holler at you later. Or I'll call you back. Or let's talk next week. But sometimes we got to say, all right, I'm going to walk away, but let's do this. Right now is not a good time. Can I sit down for a second, think about it? Let's discuss this in a